Cosby Pudding Pop. I'll type this in the chat. That's right, it's cooking time. What's happening, everybody? How we doing today? Hello. Today's going to be a nice short and sweet cooking with Frag. We're really just going to be cooking a piece of fish and doing a little pan butter sauce. There's all sorts of different kinds of pan sauce you can make. This is a whole butter one. Very easy to do. I don't have any white wine. Classically, you would deglaze your pan with white wine. I'm going to deglaze my pan with some lemon juice instead. I don't keep a lot of cooking wine on hand, but... So the basic premise of what we're going to do here is I'm going to talk about temperatures to cook fish, how to cook salmon properly. I'll cover like deboning and filleting fish in another episode, but for today we have this nice lovely piece of king salmon. Just going to do a lemon, butter, and caper. Nice and simple. Salmon, obviously living in the Pacific Northwest, is something we have a lot of, but it's a wonderful fish. All fish cooks about the same. If you can cook one fish well, you can probably cook most fish well. Yes, some fish have higher fat contents and oil contents than others, but they're all about the same. The main thing that people do wrong with fish is they overcook it, which is really easy to do. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to cut up some butter, and we're going to leave this out, and we're going to add this to the pan at the very end. It's just how you make a whole butter sauce. It's very, very easy. So not too much, about a quarter of a stick. Might even be a little bit more than we need. But I hope everyone's having a great day. I just wanted to briefly cover fish and how to cook it, and we'll revisit it at a later time. But I just wanted to lay down the base of how to actually cook fish, because that can be really intimidating, especially if there's so many different kinds of fish. But a way you'll never go wrong with cooking fish is by searing it really heavily on one side and letting it finish cooking. Fish temperatures are very similar to meat temperatures. So if you want a medium rare piece of fish, you're going to pull it at about 115, which is the same you would pull a steak. What we're going to be going for today is between medium rare and medium. And it may seem weird to undercook your fish, but that is the best way to do it. That way you get a nice, tender, juicy piece of fish. Honestly, if you overcook salmon, it tastes like cat food. It's really got a really weird, gnarly texture. I'm going to leave the skin on for this preparation as well. As I said, I'll cover filleting and deboning and doing all that stuff at a later date. We're going to leave the skin on. This gives us a chance to sear it on one side and still have it be nice and juicy on the inside. These are pretty fat piece of salmon. Absolutely gorgeous, though. Alright, so that will be our piece that we'll cook. These will get saved for later. What's up, Jill? Tiger Sloth. Oh, that Cosby Pudding Pop in here. Sizina. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I still have no idea what I want to play tonight after this, but I'm looking forward to it. Alright. So we have these lovely capers here. Don't want any of the water the capers are in, so it's going to pour some into a strainer. Capers are an amazing little thing. Very potent, though. there's that. Alright, if you have a whole lemon, a little trick you can do is if you roll it on your cutting board, like so, it helps release a lot of the juices. Can we get a nice welcome to the Dapper for Ace of Cards 1000? Thank you very much, sir. Can't see the chat very well while I'm doing the cooking, but thank you very much for your support. And the juice comes out nice and easy. Probably won't need all of this, but we'll see. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with salmon. Usually simple flavors are good and goes really well with dill, garlic, lemon. You name it. Salmon has a really good base because it's a very oily fish. It's kind of a fatty fish as well. Some things you can look for, like if you're baking salmon, there's a stuff called albumin inside of the salmon. If you notice when you bake a salmon, that white stuff that comes out on the outside, that's a very good indication that it's either done or overcooked. That is the fat pushing out from the fish. Salmon is incredibly healthy for you. It's just full of really good oils. As is a lot of fish. I mean, there's been tons of studies done that eating a little bit of fish is extremely, extremely healthy for you. Oh, sweet nectar. Alright, so it's going to be about as simple as it gets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty aggressively season the fish, going to dredge it in flour, and then we're going to fry it and then make a pan sauce. So, for seasoned flour, which I'm not using because I'm going to really season the outside of the fish really heavily before I dredge it, you want about 1 tablespoon of salt and pepper mix per cup of flour is the base for dredging. And of course there are 3 teaspoons and a tablespoon if you want to break that down into a lower amount. Actually, let's just go ahead and do this. Just going to get the one side with flour. What all the flour is really going to do is allow us to get this really nice crust on the outside of the fish. There we go. Nice and easy. Now I'm going to be using clarified butter for this. You can use oil, you can use whole butter, you can use whatever you want. I did clarified butter on a previous cooking with Frag and trying to find uses for it. The benefit of using clarified butter is that it has a very high burning temperature, so it's much harder to burn. When you burn butter, what's burning inside the butter is the fat. So if you take a look, you can see the difference between these two butters. Hopefully. This one still has all the fat in it, it's just whole butter, and this is clarified butter, which we removed all the fatty bits. So, just a little bit of butter in the pan. Well, let's be real, it's more than a little bit of butter, but butter is good. Alright, well that's heating up. I'm getting myself some more coffee. The scary thing about fish, well, it's not really scary, but like if you have a bad experience with fish, it's like a lot of things. If you have a really bad experience with fish, you're probably not going to like it very much. You're very open to trying different kinds of fish, and that's completely understandable because overcooked or overcooked fish is really kind of a terrible taste. Cooking with Frag coffee. But the best thing you can do for fish, almost every fish, you want to cook to like a medium well at most. If you go past that, you're just going to have a really obnoxious texture. It's very hard to eat and swallow. Most fish are you just fine getting away with like a medium rare. Salmon is definitely one of those that's very good on the medium rare end, and very unlikely to make you sick. Fish is a lot cleaner than people think. It's not what I would consider a dirty animal. I mean, you think especially about like saltwater fish, it's basically living in a brine. So you don't have to have too much fear of that. You get a little more butter. Oh, it's right there. Just a smidgen. The only fish you really need to be careful about, like undercooking and stuff, are the bottom feeders, like halibut. Anything that lives on the bottom is more likely to have some form of ringworm or something like that. But for free-floating fish, they're usually pretty clean. And frozen fish, no, does not taste the same. But depending on where you live, it's not too hard to get fresh seafood. We're very blessed in the Pacific Northwest to be right next to the ocean and have lots of rivers with salmon and whatnot. Yep, flounder. Just anything that hits the bottom, rockfish, is likely to have those worms. So you need to either freeze it and then cook it, or be very careful. The fish is delicious, incredibly healthy. It makes you feel good. All right, so we got quite a bit of butter in this pan, and that's great because I like butter. Really, it looks like a lot of butter, but really the purpose of the butter is to get a nice crust on the fish. We'll be pouring most of this off after the fillet is done. Oh yeah, pike place marketfish is super expensive but really good. I always love they have the monkfish on display. Monkfish is so ugly, but it is a really delicious piece of fish. I did watch Kitchen Nightmares Horror. I certainly did. I certainly did. That just wow. Just that's all I gotta say is wow. Pretty incredible. All right, we gotta be getting close. So let's see here. We got a nice sizzle. Just want to make sure I get a nice even. Oh, it's probably not quite there. That's okay. Pan should have been a little bit hotter. You want to hear a nice sizzle when it hits the pan. Should have been there for about another 15-20 seconds, and we would have gotten there. But that's okay. You can still hear the sizzle. It's going to sear up just fine. I will never open a restaurant. I'll just say that right now. Too much work. Too much damn work. I am perfectly content cooking for myself and family at home, rather than having to worry about managing a kitchen. I really don't want to do that. Alright. Let's keep sliding this around, make sure it's getting that nice buttery goodness. Cooking fish is just so simple. It's usually, I mean, a lot of fish is thinner than that too. It's literally just a nice sear on one side, flip it over, and it's done. Yeah, kitchen work's very stressful, especially when you add in the element of having to manage other people and rely on other people. That's really why I never call myself a chef. You'll never hear me say that. I'm a cook. A chef manages cooks, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get out of the kitchen in the first place. Honestly, Envy, it depends on the preparation. For this, I want to get a nice crust on the other side of the salmon before I flip it over. Salmon has such a high oil content that it's not a huge deal if which side you do it on. It's very hard to dry out salmon, which may sound hard for some people to believe because maybe all they've had is dry salmon. But it's one of the harder fish to overcook. The higher the fat content inside your fish, the harder it's going to be to make it dry. That fish is a nice orange color. I thought it was cheese for a while. I can see that. I have it on a pretty aggressive heat. I would say medium high is what we're at right now. Medium high. I'm going to turn it down a smidge so I can see a little bit of smoke coming off. I don't think I want to start a fire. That's a nice sizzle. Smoked salmon is also amazing. Let's just take a quick peek there. Not quite, almost. As with all things, the more browning you get on there, the better it's going to taste. So we want to get a nice golden brown crust. This window. All right. That should be right about there. Possibly could have sat for a little bit longer, but that will do. Got a pretty nice golden brown, very crusty because of the flour. If you can't, I'm trying to think how to say it. If you undercook it, that's when you're going to have a problem. The crust, that is. Everything else is usually fine. And we're going to turn that down a little bit so we stop smoking. I prefer not to set off my smoke alarm, which happens to be very sensitive. So what I'm looking for on the inside of the salmon is about 120 degrees. We hit 120 degrees in the center of the salmon. I'm going to pull it off, and it's going to finish cooking on the cutting board or on the plate. All meat, you have to account for the carryover cooking. I mean, same goes with the vegetables or anything else. When you cook something on an extremely high heat, when you take it away from that heat, it's going to continue to cook after that. I will thermometer this. Back when I was doing broiler cooking, I could look at a steak and tell you how done it was. But that's one of those things that comes with practice, and I have not been in practice for a long time. So the safest way is to always put a thermometer into your food. That way you'll know for sure if it's done or not. You can get a nice digital thermometer for like under 20 bucks. It's a great thing to have, period, for cooking anything. Being able to eyeball or touch your food and know how done it is comes with a lot of practice. I mean, if you want to know, if you can touch a piece of salmon like this and go, oh, that's medium rare, that's probably going to take you cooking several salmons worth. Yes, salmon is generally very soft and easy to eat. If you do overcook it, it has this really dry, unpleasant texture. You can get good ones on Amazon while supporting the stream. Look at that Encryptio growing that brand for me. That's absolutely right. Alright, so I'm going to guess we're not even close to the center of that one. Touch the salmon. Touch it. Yeah, overdone fish, period, just has like a really, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's just not a pleasant taste. Alright, now I'm going to flip this up here. See if we can get a nice sear on that side. I'm going to poke the thermometer in. I know we're not even close, but I'm curious. So it's only like 70. When meat has a certain point where it starts going up really fast. It's usually around 90, 95 degrees. It'll take forever to get to 90 degrees, and then when it gets there, it goes from 90 to 120 in about less than a minute. Another one of those practice things. The nice thing about salmon, too, is it has a really nice thick skin, so if you cook with the skin on, it's not like you're going to be getting big, nasty pieces of skin in there, especially if it's nice and crispy, like it is. Yes, it is absolutely terrible if it's overcooked, but we'll break this one open after we're done, and I'll show you what you're looking for, because it should be incredibly moist and delicious. No question. Oh yeah, you can use canola oil, hell, you can use olive oil. Whatever you want to cook the salmon in, the only thing you really need is that high temperature to get that nice crust on the outside. Yeah, if you've had a bad experience with salmon, I would encourage you to try it again and cook it for yourself. And it's a little trickier with olive oil. Olive oil has a slightly slower or lower burning temperature, but not so much so that you can't do it. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little bit of white stuff coming on the outside. That is the albumin. That's what we're trying to not have a lot of, because that means it's going to get overcooked. All right, we're up to like 80. If you're pretty new to cooking fish or salmon, temping it a few times while you cook's not a bad thing to do. That way you get a better barometer of a bigger piece of fish, how fast or slow it's going to cook. Peanut oil has an incredibly high smoking point. For searing fish, grapeseed oil has an extremely high burning temperature as well. I'd say grapeseed oil is probably the one. That one has a smoking temperature well over 500, as does peanut oil. Olive oil is somewhere around 450. But I don't think you'd want to cook your salmon in peanut oil on most occasions. You poach your salmon in olive oil. It's good stuff, sir. Alright, we're definitely getting there. Definitely getting there. Still got a little bit, though. I'm only cooking one piece. I'm not going to load up my oven for one piece of fish. But what you can do is sear it off on all sides and then throw it in the oven. But we're getting there just fine. You see the butter is a little bit brown, but that's okay. That's partly the flour being in the pan and all sorts of stuff. Clarified butter never is really going to taste, I guess, burnt the way that other things would. Oh, my mic's right here. It's hiding in the beard, sir. I can feel it. It's definitely getting there. Just gonna give it just another second. Then I'm gonna flip it back over to the skin side, which is almost impossible to burn. Then we're gonna wait for it to finish. No problem. I mean, all fish has basically the same cooking method. You sear it really good, and then you pull it before it's overcooked, and you're golden. You can see we got kind of a nice browning on the whole outside, and it's got a nice crispy texture where we put the flour. That's exactly what we want. I can tell it's getting really close. That middle bit's probably going to take a bit longer, but that's okay. I honestly don't mind if my salmon's rare. I love salmon. It's really good. See, there we hit the 90 point, so it's going to shoot up really quick. Welcome to the Dapper Death by Fire. Thank you very much. This will be a nice short episode of Cooking with Frag. We're probably not going to go much more than like another 10 or 15 minutes. But I try to keep it within an hour and a half at most. Look at that train. That's a nice rare right now. What's a good fish to try? Like a white fish, a trout or cod or something like that is usually a pretty mild fish to start out with. Some fishes like sea bass and salmon have high oil content that equals more of a fishy taste. So if you're not really sure about seafood, a white fish is usually a good bet to go. Halibut, anything like that is going to be, I guess, safe would be the right word. So now we're at like 108. Shark is pretty good. Rainbow trout's great. Oh sure, Flawnlord. Good way to deal with weird cuts of salmon. That's a good point. A lot of it's like really high on one end and low on the other. The best thing you can do is try to get the most consistent pieces possible. But let's say for example on this piece, this butt end's way bigger, Now you flip it up on its top so it can get more heat into there. Alright, I think we're going to call that good. It's going to be a little more rare, which is how I like mine. I would suggest a medium, just another second. I would suggest like a medium for your salmon. So you're going to pull it around 120, 125, and let it carry over cook. This same cooking method applies to almost every single kind of fish there is. There's very few fish that have a different cooking method or do not cook well this way. Congratulations, Fat Rat. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, all we did was season the outside with salt and pepper and then put flour on there. If you want to make your own batch of seasoned flour, it's about 1 tablespoon of salt pepper mix per cup, 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. Okay, that's a good question about the carryover cooking. There's a couple different factors that will go into carryover cooking. One of the main ones that goes to carryover cooking is, oh yes, beautiful. Okay. So we got this nice, lovely browned piece of salmon. The fat content. Salmon has a high fat content, so it will carry over cook just a little bit more than some other fish. I'm going to pour off a little bit of this butter. Turn up. Don't want very much of that. And then we're going to saute our capers. Same thing goes with steaks. So like if you cook a ribeye, it's going to carry over a bit more than like a fillet or something like that. Though they're all around the same range within a couple degrees. Sweet, delicious capers. Okay. And we got a nice hot pan. I'm going to pour a little lemon juice on there. Gonna let it cook down a little bit, but not all the way. And we're going to turn off the heat. When you're making a butter pan in a butter sauce in a pan, you don't want the pan to be so hot it breaks the butter. The ideal thing that happens, and I don't know if it will, I could mess it up, is that you have this nice creamy rich butter. It's going to taste the exact same either way, it just looks much prettier. Capers and salmon were kind of made for each other, just the way it is. So I really want a warm pan, not an ultra hot pan. So you take it off the heat, let it cool down for a minute. And capers are amazing. Did someone say cappers? Alright, to make our... I think it's still too hot. Still too hot. We'll just give it a minute. This has to be just hot enough to melt the butter. Now, what you would normally do if you had white wine on hand is you would deglaze the pan with white wine. Yeah, they are a very tart, potent flavor. Cooking off the liquid a little bit definitely helps that. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to add, I think, yes, butter. And we're just going to swirl it in the pan. All you have to do is add a little bit at a time and then try to keep it in its whole form. If your pan's too hot, what happens is the butter separates. And as I said, it's not going to taste any different because it did. It looks like mine just might. It's not going to taste any different if it separates, but you just want to add one little bit at a time and melt it down. Much more important if you're making like a beurre blanc or something that it stays together, but for this, not the biggest deal in the world. It's going to taste good. Deglaze is what you do in a pan after you sear something. Deglazing is removing all the stuff you cooked onto the pan, which equals flavor. So, if you sear a bunch of steaks and stuff, you deglaze and it gets all that stuff you cooked onto the pan, the tasty bits. Yes, the fond, exactly. Very good, crackpot. Alright, our mostly whole butter sauce is done. That's it! That's really how you make a nice butter sauce. One thing you can also do is, like, if you want to add more flavor to it, what you'd do is add garlic and shallots, and then you'd add white wine, let it get all the way down, and then you would add your lemon juice and butter. There's many different ways to go about it, but that is the most basic of pan sauces. So we have this lovely piece of salmon. All we're going to do is spoon that over. Not very much. But I went super basic with your pan sauces. Like I said, you can add garlic, shallots, herbs, whatever you want to do. But that is a nice, simply cooked piece of fish. I'm going to break it open here in a second so you can see what the inside should look like. My sauce did break a little bit, but like I said, it'll taste exactly the same. Alright. It's the moment of truth. There we go. That is actually quite lovely. So, what you're looking for on the inside of salmon, you still want that rich pink on the inside. That's very moist and tender. That's a nice medium. If you start getting the albumin coming out the top, that's usually when it overcooked. But that is a lovely cooked piece of salmon. You can see I cooked it on one side a little bit more than another, but it's going to be good. Oh man, that sauce is really good too. But super simple to cook. You can cook just about any fish that way, and it's going to be nice and good. Yep, you smelled the fish, didn't you, Mr. Maximus? Come here, you sausage. Oh, big sausage. I know, but you came in here. You came in here, though. Mr. Maximus. Mr. Maximus Sausage Cat. But I hope that was informative. I know it was just showing something very basic, but it's really that easy. It's really that easy to cook fish. All you have to do is get a nice hot pan, sear one side, pull it at like 120, 125, and you're going to have a nice, delicious piece of fish. If you have a skinnier piece of fish, you can pull it earlier, like more like 115. The thing you have to keep in mind is the thicker your piece of fish is, the more superheated the outside gets. Sure, fish can be extremely scary. Many people have horrible experiences with fish. I'll tell you, that is tender and delicious and moist. No sides today, but you can do whatever you want with it. I just wanted to demonstrate cooking fish. Thank you very much, Kaiser Soze. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today. I'll be back online downstairs in a moment, then I'll come upstairs and clean up. So, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope that was helpful for somebody. And then we will be back next week. I'm really excited for the meat fabrication episode. That one's going to be exciting for me. It'll be expensive, but worth it. I'm going to try to break down a New York strip, beef tenderloin, and a whole chicken. How do you store your salmon? I mean, if only a couple pieces, let's wrap it in saran wrap. If you really want to keep it fresh, you can put a bag of ice on it. But thank you everybody for joining. I'm going to kill the cast. I'll be back online in just a moment. Very cool, God loves me. I'm glad to hear that. It's really, salmon especially, or a fatty fish, can be extremely intimidating if you do it wrong. But do it again, because you may have a really good experience. Salmon is amazing. Alright, we'll be back soon. Welcome to the Dapper, everybody. Thank you. Back in like less than 2 minutes, and then I'm going to come upstairs and put away everything, eat my salmon, and we'll start the gaming broadcast. Be right back.